And action. What was I going to do? I'm going to talk today about some picking techniques and some different things, observations. I'm not going to say this is, I'm just going to do it, alright? I'm just going to tell you stuff. I have been doing lots of work on my picking, which is rubbish. I'm what I would always consider a triple H, heavy-handed Harry. Now, what does that mean? It means that I'd always play things hard. What that does for you is it gives you a really harsh sound, it knocks the guitar out of tune. So I know all this. I've been around really great guitar players like Steve Hunter, and what I've generally found, and it's not always true, everyone's got their own way, but I found that people like Steve Hunter pick very lightly and they get way more dynamics out of the guitar. You know, like this idea about digging in. See, I always took things literally. I thought digging in, you know, Pete Townsend. I always thought that, you know, you hit the guitar really hard, like Pete Townsend. But I was lucky enough to get a windmill lesson from Pete Townsend in his hotel room. I was lucky enough to introduce Pete Townsend and Lou Reed to each other because they worked together. We were doing a gig in New York at Joe's Pub. And I can tell the whole story to how that all came on. You know, it's quite funny and very interesting, and people are interested in either Pete Townsend or Lou Reed. But here's the thing: Pete told me that in order to do anything that he did, you have to be really light with his hand. Right, I'm going to get onto it. I'm going to ramble a bit, but it'll make sense in a minute. You hear, I'm very heavy-handed. Pete or someone else, if I lean into the camera a bit, I'm going to try and get this, like if I'm playing how I normally would, actually this is a lot lighter than I normally would. Can you hear that? It's very mid-rangey. Now that, you can use that. If you wanted to play funk and you play hard with a thin pick, it sounds like you've got a compressor. Do you hear that snap? It sounds like a compressor popping, doesn't it? You don't see, this is why people are like, why don't you plug a guitar in? I'm trying to show you or teach you. No, don't say teach. I'm not teaching anyone anything. I'm trying to learn myself. And in doing this, I've discovered, this is stuff I knew as a guitar tech, but for some reason, idiot, I don't do it for myself. I watch it, I see him do it. I work with Nile Rodgers. Look, I think I did this on the last one, so you know that I'm legit. Well, I don't really care if you don't think I'm legit. I don't know if that's as chic or like Nile Rodgers. I haven't got my glasses on, they're on my head. This is Nile Rodgers' pick. It's quite thin. There's a Lou Reed pick. Do you hear the difference? Right, and if I hold it lower, I know this is stating the obvious, but it seems to me that a lot of people don't know this. The other thing is, a lot of guitar players use the radius, use the round bit. People like Steve Hunter use all of it. They turn it around for whatever job they're doing. See, I've noticed a lot of people, they've got this, I hold my pick like this and it does everything. And it's like, a lot of guitar players that I've worked with don't do the same thing all the time. They change, they rotate the pick. Sometimes, Walter Becker had loads of picks. He had thick picks, thin picks, wood picks. Here's another thing. I'm going to, let's try and show you a really thick pick. There's no flex in that whatsoever. It's absolutely... Now, if you've got something like that and you're me and you're playing for a Marshall stack and you're playing really loud, straight in, and you start doing... You're going to knock the shit out of tune, and not only that, you're going to kill people. I've played Billy Duffy's guitars on stage. They were 120 dB, and that was 11 feet from the wall. The wall of Marshalls, we used to meter it every day. The first amp was a JC120, and that was running. That would give us 107 dB. The second amp was an AC30. That gave us 108 dB. The two together would give us 110 dB. The first Marshall on its own was 110 dB, and the second Marshall was also 110 dB. Put all four of those on, I think we went up to something like about 115 dB. started putting the distortions on. We got up to 118 dB with the overdrives. He had 2 or 3 overdrives, and we could do, you could do some stacking. The final thing, you kick the wah wah on. That's another 3 dB. Finally, when we meet, this is 11 feet from the speakers. Have you any idea what sort of volume that is? It's insanity, but it's great fun too. What should I tell them about? What is it like? The thing is, someone like Billy Duffy, if you're playing something like Billy Duffy, you can't play like Malmsteen and be that loud. Malmsteen says he's, all real men play on 10. Yes, but his picking technique, he's not moving that much. And if you see, let me tell you about pickups. Pickup, this is, I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do know this, but this is a pickup and it's got magnets in it and it's got a coil of copper wire. The way it works, and this comes from Seth Lover, the guy that invented the PAF, I've got there's papers on it, and what he claims is the strings are made of steel, which has got iron content, therefore they become magnetic by the magnets in there, and when you move a string, you're moving a magnet through a copper coil field, thus creating voltage. That comes down through your tone circuit, your volume circuit, then your tone, out your guitar to your amp. That's how electricity is created by the guitar. Electricity is created in the guitar pickup. Now, if you're Malmsteen, and you're obviously going to play the harmonic minor everywhere really fast, and he's brilliant. I'm not knocking Malmsteen, but his idea of more is more. He's not doing more and more on the picking. He's barely moving. But have you noticed why when Malmsteen stops, he's got a beautiful vibrato and it blooms. Do you know why it blooms? I'll tell you what blooms. If you've got a string that's a magnet in a copper field and it's only moving that amount, and then you vibrato with the other hand, you're not picking, so you don't hear all. Listen, I'll try and lean in and see if I can show you this. Wherever you hit the string, in fact, the lighter I go, do you hear that? Every time you hit the pick, there are 2 things happening. This hand, the note that's being played, and the harmonics that you're going to give it. Now, Steve Vai says he doesn't like it picking here. It's not a nice sound for him, but see, if you do it gently, you get the harmonic. If you pluck it, you get the harmonic and the bop 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 bop, which is like a compressor. So this is what they're talking about, toning your hands. I think. Call me crazy. We all know I'm crazy. I'm over that shit. Call me what you want. I really don't care. I'm on a quest like everyone else. And I just feel that because I've been around a lot of stuff, like Nile Rodgers. Nile Rodgers has got the funkiest hand ever. Nile Rodgers will hold big jazzy chords or whatever they might be. Whatever it is, but he never plays more than 3 notes at one time. Let's try and do something. Oh, when you're doing funk as well, this is a little tip. 70s disco, a lot of it was in B minor. That's major, I know, but. So take your A string. The other thing I hear, there's a great guy who's taught us all about the picking. I think his name's Troy Grady, I think his name is. He's really got, the only thing I've never met him, don't know anything about him. I've watched his videos. He's encouraging because he's trying to figure it all out, and he's figured a lot of stuff out. And he uses Zex coil pickups, which I've used. I've got Zex coils on the other guitar, and check them out. They're really good. I know Dr. Zex. He's a great guitar player, but he's also smart. The reason I found those Zex coils, I work for Lou Reed, and I had to find new things all the time. That's my job. New pickups, new amps. But here's the thing. You think, oh yeah, it's great. You can't fuck up. You can't get a new pickup and present it to an artist and it's rubbish. You lose your job instantly. First of all, you lose their trust and faith. Once that's gone, you're over, dude. If you present something to Lou Reed and he goes, what the hell is this? you're gone. But if you, this is a tick, what am I trying to say? Slow down. See, I get nervous and then I can't talk, which is ridiculous because I can always talk, but I just can't get words out of my mouth. Anyway, slow down. I'm doing stand-up comedy even as we speak. Stop. What you're trying to say with Lou Reed. It's a tech tip you're trying to give other technicians. I've seen other techs crash and burn on this many times. They get a new piece of equipment, it's sent in, they unbox it in front of the artist, they walk up to the artist, they don't have the right cables, they don't know how it goes, they don't know what it sounds like. They plug it in, it sounds like shit, and the artist goes, why are you wasting my time? This is what I would do. I'm not saying, this is just what I'm not teaching anyone. I'm sick of people like thinking that I'm trying to tell them things, and I'm, you know, this is how it is. It's how I did things. And I stayed with Lou for nearly 10 years, nine, and that says a lot, you know, to stay around Lou Reed that long, or any artist that long, if they're a person who wants to keep moving on and have new things. So this is what I would do. I'd contact a company and say, you know, I work for Lou Reed, I like this product. Like I contact Dr. Zex. I said, I love these pickups. I said, I'd always had this idea about each coil being its own thing, and then you could obviously wire them as like in series or in parallel. And you know, I had this idea, but I'm lazy. I never ever do it. And I found that Dr. Zex actually did it. And I contacted him, had a great conversation. He sent the pickups, and gradually we worked on it. But that's just big pickups. But so for example, if I contact and I get a pedal sent to me, I can give you an example. I got an analog King of Tone sent out, and Analog Man, that's Analog Man, isn't it? King of Tone. I think the guy's name's Mike at Analog. He was lovely, really helpful. And I said, look, I'm with Lou. Mark Rebo is, you know, recommends this pedal. It's one of your pedals. Can we try one? Sure. He sent one out for us to try. Now, sometimes people just keep the, you know, but I did the actual test. Now, that pedal is meant to emulate a 1958 Deluxe, I think. The 12 watt, you know, the Tweed Deluxe. It's fucking holy grail, all right? And this is going to be really make a lot of you upset. We were using the Pete Cornish SS3. And so I wired up the SS3 and the King of Tone so that I could A-B them. And the third thing that I could A-B-C was the actual real amp. And this is the key thing that most people, people will argue about the pedal, it's this, that. I'll tell you, this is the signal chain, the most important thing. And you won't get it, and you'll argue with me, but it starts in the gut. If your gut is good, you get good chemicals, that supplies your heart. If your heart is feeling good, gut to heart is good. This is emotional, this goes to the head, this is still emotional. The head, heart and gut control the fingers. Intuition is from the gut. Heart, sometimes you feel, you know, you feel love in your heart, don't you? Sometimes you get a gut feeling, I don't like this guy, this English guy is a wanker, I don't like him, I get a feeling, you get a gut feeling about things. That's called intuition, that's being in tune with the universe. The heart, if your heart is pure and you really think this, you literally feel things in your bones. No, I feel it in my bones, this is good, I love this person, I hate this, whatever it is. Gut, heart, head. Psychology in the head, emotions in the body through the fingers. Fingers touch the guitar. I've just told you about the heavy picking shit. Right, I've got to get into like talking about Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan to make this video work, and Jimi Hendrix. How am I going to do that? You're going to link it, just go slow and you'll get there. Right, the Telecaster is the most balanced guitar on the planet. You can literally, if I find a space, and it's around, it's around here somewhere. I can, close. I can usually get Telecasters to balance pretty easy. And I did that because I do guitar feedback. And one day what happened was the guitar shook so hard. I move it, I fish for frequency. I move them by the headstock and I move them around. And all of a sudden the sound travels up the guitar. And it's literally, but you know when you're in the ocean and you step on a fish or a crab, oh my God, what was that? It literally did that. And I let go of it. The first time it happened, I let go. And I suddenly went, that's Lou Reed's guitar. And I went to grab it. And I was like, no, wait. It was balanced, feeding back. And I waited on tenterhooks, waiting to catch it for 20 minutes. And then I relaxed. I went, it's not going to fall. See if you can do a second one. Took me about 25 minutes, I got 2 up. Over the course, I did feedback in the Dark Mofo Festival. Over the course of 118 hours of guitar feedback, I was able to get 4 of them up. I was working on a wooden drum riser. It was so alive that literally where I could tread, I could stop the frequencies and start frequencies. If you come and experience what I've experienced, you wouldn't. It just does things to you. You've got frequency running through your body. Anyway, I could only ever get 4 up. As soon as I got the 5th one up, one would fall, and like a dude, when these guitars come down, they sound fucking awful. And then you got to start again. But when they're up, the funny thing is you move them away from the amp. When you've got them leaning against the amp, they're really loud and aggressive. As you move them away, they calm down. They find this spot, and they literally look up harmonious or harmony. It means to be in balance. They literally balance, feeding back. And each one, the more you bring them in, the more the volume decreases. They find that, you know, have you seen those pendulums that all work at different, and gradually they're on a table and they gradually all synchronise? That happens with guitars. I've done it. I've got 7, but you have to be on something solid, concrete, or, you know, tiles. In St John's the Divine, I did that, and in over 5 hours I got all 7 to balance 3 times. I kept putting them, you know, I could have left them there the whole time, but I was like, the fun is trying to find the frequencies, because it's sort of, you're changing the overall thing. It's not like, you know, this isn't like you just play a C chord and it's always there. It's like playing a C chord, but you do. There's all those frequencies, all harmonics. It's a harmonic overtone series, and each note has got 16 overtones minimum. If you go onto other instruments like gongs have got so many overtones that they literally bong, they self-oscillate. Pyramids, don't talk about pyramids. Right, so let's get back to picking, because I'm getting too into it now. Malmsteen. So when Malmsteen's playing, he's picking super light. When he vibratos, the guitar string is moving way more over the field. Therefore, imagine it like this. This is a string, it's at a certain volume. Bing, 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 doo-doo-doo. Whatever he's playing, harmonic minor somewhere. He'll be like up and down, like, you know Malmsteen, he's brilliant. He's a great comic too. He's funny as fuck, I love him. I'm never going to be his tech, ever. Never, ever going to work for him. Right, so the string, up and down, really light, vibrato. You suddenly increase the voltage, but you've done it in a vibrato, so it blooms up. So that's Malmsteen. I've got Malmsteen out of the way. Ed Van Halen. Here's another thing. All your fingers sound different. I know that sounds nuts, but when you stop playing electrically and you start listening, this finger sounds... Little finger, little bit of... Little finger. It sounds different to that finger. I'm just doing things, not even. But the pick, Gary Moore would hold the pick like this, and his hands were like this. So he's using that rotational. Here's the other thing with Gary. I think it looks like he's doing all downstrokes. I think a lot of people, guitar players, were doing upstrokes. Even Django. I think the reason being, my dad came up with this theory when I was a kid, young youth, and I was trying to figure out picking. My dad came up with this idea that your guitar string is stretched under tension, but it's also got gravity pulling it down. So you're in tune, you've got gravity. And if you push the string up against gravity, it's going to snap back. Gravity is going to pull it, and the tension, it's going to snap back. But if you push down, you're going with gravity. It actually dampens, and then it's got to come back against gravity. So downstrokes, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. I'm using the Nile Rodgers pick at the minute. And I'm playing a little bit loud because I don't know if the phone picks it up. Downstroke, upstroke. Right, now, Roy Buchanan years ago, I didn't know what he was talking about, but he mentioned a technique where he did circles. Remember Pete Townsend, circles, important. Eddie Van Halen does this thing, he uses the middle finger, and maybe supports with that one, and the thumb. Well, what does that look like? But what it does for you, look at your arm rotation. Watch Ed, he's rotating the arm, but very small. But it's that, and it looks like he's doing all up and down like that. Now here's what I think Ed's doing, and it's like just a theory. I'm not going to try it out yet because I haven't got the rig set up in the apartment. Ed used slapback echo. If you pick up and the downstroke is the echo, right, so now if I was going da 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 and I'm slapping at the same time, I can't do. If I could do legato, I could do it. Like don't slap back really quick. That no on, no on, no on, no on. That I think if I and the feedback has got to be equal. The echo has got to be equal to the note played up. Then you're going to get a really lovely sound, because when you play upstrokes, you get that snap. You notice with Stevie Ray Vaughan, often he's pulling out and up. Now, I don't know if the magnetic field is also affected sideways and upways. It's something, it's a theory I've got, but I don't know. So I'm just telling you observations. I think Stevie Ray might have done. People do upstrokes. I got a thick pick. What I've done, this is my special pick that I always use. A special pick. That's not it. That's the one there. That one I've got to modify to be this. But what I'm trying to do is get my picking together. But I'm not like everyone else. I don't want to play fast. I love playing slow. I want to get. So Roy Buchanan, when he was picking fast, did circles. I didn't know what that meant. I thought he meant circles on the chord. So I'm going to hold a chord on this then and do circles on the pick. Right, circles everyone, windmills, Pete Townsend. Oh, missed it. Seriously, this stuff sounds great as soon as I put the camera on, I can't do it, and I hit everything, it sounds like shit. But the point is, I'm putting ideas in your head now. You're starting to think about your own picking differently. I will perfect this, and I will be able to do a good video at some point, and I will be able to help you. So, Hendrix and Van Halen, what's the connection? Both of them had their pickups really low. Ed Van Halen put it so low that he was picking up the springs in the back. So you've got sympathetic resonance between the string on the front and the springs in the back. That's why he always had it down to the body. It's not what you think. It's so that springs are actually, he tuned it. He tuned the springs to strings. And I can tell you one thing, why I think that's true. When you look at the back of the Frankenstein, he's got a piece of aluminum only over the treble spring. The treble spring of not the strings, the spring on the back, in the back cavity. Ed hated top end. He would boil the strings, get rid of the top end. He had a 250k pot on a humbucker. It's getting rid of the top end. Ed then put the like when you get a super high powered humbucker, it's like a microphone. If I put I'm going to get if I put close, I'm going to get bass response. My voice will be very bassy and As I move away, there gets air in. Do you know what? Jimmy Page brought the mics away from the drum kit. He brought the bright mics away from the speakers. Room mics. It allows more dynamics. Ed knew this because Ed claimed he didn't listen to Jimi Hendrix. Like he's into all these other people. I think he did listen to Hendrix because I've listened to the feedback of Hendrix. Hendrix is on single coils, granted, but he's also got a germanium diode or a silicon diode in the mix. Ed's got distortion from the amps. Different. But there's similarities there, and a lot of the feedback, some of the feedback, a part of the feedback, is coming from the springs in the back. Listen to Hendrix. Hendrix has got 5 springs on. It's down to, that's really hard. Have you ever had a Strat with 5 springs on? I did when I was a kid. Richie Blackmore had 5 springs. I didn't know shit about anything. I just had, everyone had 5 springs. We didn't know shit. You know, and you had to, that bar would bend before anything would move. You had to really, anyway. Listen to the feedback when Hendrix brings it down, and listen to Ed do the same thing. There's a similarity, sympathetic resonance. God, I wish I could fucking speak. Sympathetic resonance in the spring and the string at the same time. Obviously, Ed didn't like the top end. He shielded that with the aluminum, and I think that shielded something else. Right, I can keep going with Ed. There's loads of things. I've got theories, and Pete Turner's got very close. There's an English guy who's got close as well, and there's an American guy. They're all doing great work. They're getting very close to Ed, very close. But I've got some ideas. They're only ideas. I did meet Ed, and that's the thing I want to tell you. You know, everyone talks about Ed's hands. I shook Ed's hands, and they felt like my dad's hands. My dad didn't have huge hands, but he had strong hands. Ed's hands didn't feel a lot bigger than my hands. I mean, honestly, I shook it, and I thought, well, I didn't even realise it until after. I was like, I could tell you my Eddie Van Halen story. First of all, I saw him in 1978, opening up for Black Sabbath, but no one knew who they were. I could tell that story. If anyone's interested, it's fucking amazing. Then I told Ed that story when they rehearsed in SIR 25 in New York. It's when Van Halen did that Cafe War gig. Dave Lee Roth's got family that own Cafe War, or know something about Cafe War. So they were in New York, so I got to meet Ed. Ed was in there, he sounded amazing. And then he came out to have a piss, and I was making some tea up by the toilets and the tea machine. There's Eddie Van Halen. What you can do? Hey Ed, how you doing, mate? I'm good. How are you? And I said, can I tell you a story? And I told him my Eddie Van Halen. I said the Van Halen story, and Eddie gave me. I said, and then when you played Eruption, my fucking head exploded. And he went. Eddie gave that. You know Eddie's laugh. He laughed out, and he sort of went, "Dude, that's a great story." And he put his hand out, and he shook my hand. And I felt his hand. It's like, it wasn't that different to my own. Anyway, except he knows what he's doing. But you see my point, as I'm a guitar tech, I might not be able to do it. But, you know, the coach on the team, any football team or American football, I know it's weird because you play it with your hands and football's meant to be played with your feet. You call it soccer. That's because you sock it in the goal. Whatever. It's all bullshit. The basketball players, any of those guys on the field, look at the coach. Does the coach look like the player? No. Does the guitar tech look like look at Steve Vai? Does his tech look like him? No, we don't. His old tech was Tommy Nordegg, and he's a friend, and we're old techs from the road. And I took over from Tommy on Duran Duran, looking after Warren Cucurello, who's Frank Zappa. So I've been around a lot of players. I can't do it myself. I can't play Eruption, nor do I want to. You know, I've been for years trying to do it, and it's like, why don't he does it? But no one does it better than Ed. Here's the thing I've learned: the more you try to copy someone else, the more your soul goes into that person. You lose yourself. Now, does that mean don't transcribe, don't listen to them? No, absolutely not. I was going to do the Django thing, wasn't I? Now, Django used really thick picks, but I think, you know, Gypsy Stroke, you slice through the string, everything's downstrokes is what they say. What if you go the other way? This guitar, I've deliberately made this into a dog, so it buzzes and does all sorts of things. I've done that to annoy people, and do you know why I've done that? To annoy you. These notes, Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix were both not in A equals 440. Ed would tune the guitar to itself where he felt, and it was usually a quarter step down, but not always perfectly a quarter step. And everyone goes, oh, he's got tuners, this, that and the other. He did that later on to try and get things unified, because he realised that, you know, his rig was up and down. That early rig, there's a big part of the rig that people are not seeing. When you've got a pickup, a high-powered pickup right down in the body, it's like a weak pickup. It's a weak signal. So what you're going to do? Preamp the fuck out of it. That's what you're going to do. Malmsteen is not moving that hard. He's got massive amounts of preamp, and he's got the amp on 10. If I play his amp on 10 the way I play, I'd kill people. I'd level cities. I've played Billy Duffy's rig. That's 120 dB at 11 feet. You only play little. Oh, I'm in the B tuning. Let me go back. Here's a little known fact, how important your pick is. I did a whole tour with Billy Duffy, and on two gigs from the end, we were in South America, and we were hanging out. We got back to the hotel, and there was some Cult fans, Duffy fans. There was a young, beautiful woman who was a guitar player, and she wanted to know all about guitar playing. We stood talking to her, and Billy Duffy said, and I quote, "Little known Billy Duffy fact, I used round bit of the pick. Now he also uses gold Herco picks that have got serrations on. Now, the whole tour, I was trying to set up his radio, and every time Billy came in, he'd knock it into the red. So once he did the sound check,